Hello. I would like to give you a talk about optimizing your Amazon Web Services cost. Do you hear me? Yeah. So Sumo operates like a very large service, like thousands of servers, dozens of petabytes of storage, like hundreds of petabytes are processed every day in some sort of system. So we have a lot of lessons how we are dealing with it and how we can run a service that not only provides a value, but could be also provide a value at a very affordable price. So let me tell a little bit about myself. I'm Jacek. I joined with Sumo in 2012 when Sumo was a single family home, a 20, 30 people, trying to figure out if there is some business in logs, and it turns out there is. So I went from early days when you really rushed things, you want to implement as fast as you can, go as quick as you can, and then at some point you went to a mode that yes, you went from survival, yes, survival is check. You went through a growth phase that you really want to growth, to a phase that you fight with complexity and you also need to make your unit economic great, right? At some point we realized that our costs are not that great, and we started working on that, and luckily we tried few things. One of the approaches panned out really well, that enabled us to improve our efficiency 2 times in a year, and that I'm hugely proud of this effort that a lot of people contributed, but I was leading it. And I'm also proud of creating a new Sumo engineering office based in Warsaw, Poland that employed 42 engineers. So when I think of a cloud is an industrial revolution. Before industrial revolution, this shirt would cost several months of salary, right? So only kings of the world could afford what you have in wardrobe today. Today you could buy a t-shirt maybe after 1 hour of your salary, probably even less, right? So it was a huge leap of improvement. And same is the cloud. Previously, these computing resources were constrained to very few people, maybe government or large companies, that they really have a lot of machines. But in reality, most of the people couldn't get that kind of access. And even those people in those government, it was really constrained access. So right now, a small startup could have the same resources that just 10 or 20 years ago, just a very, very few powerful organization had. And that allows to move so fast, accomplish so many things, build so many great companies, so many businesses with so much elasticity that's just unbelievable. But as you see, with every great power, it's there's so much incentive to use that great power. And because there is so much power, people jump into that, and at some point, you realize that, there are some side effects that you haven't really thought of. So one of the greatest tricks of AWS was previously you have to ask finance to use some resources. You need computer, you ask finance. And in AWS, it's the opposite. You run some computer, and at the end of the month, finance gets the bill, which to some degree allows you to have a great leap of productivity. But on the other hand, same as with Industrial Revolution, we end up with polluted rivers, polluted air. We are right now worrying that our earth wouldn't warm up too much, that we could survive. With cloud, you end up with having a huge cost that you not really know what that really means. If you spend that much money on AWS, what that means? Are your engineers so productive that they were able to ship so many products, they were winning so many accounts, bring so much revenue, and that's where you're spending the money, and that's a very, very good thing? Or is just, this money was just some hangover, that you have a nice party, you have some productivity play, that you feel that it was really productive, but you end up with a huge bill, and you have to pay for it, and it's really painful, a lot of painful conversation. So the way how we're thinking about it, we were having a lot of discussion internally how to structure our thinking around costs. That was around 4 years ago, whether maybe this whole cloud model doesn't make sense, or maybe maybe we need to ask before or have a very complicated model. But we came up with a very simple framework how to think about your AWS bill, how to think about what you are spending, in I would say 3 levels of maturity. first, do you really understand what's going on? Right? The second is that do you really have like some unifying direction what it means that you produce with those amount of spend like enough value, like some unit? And the third, do you have like some system that enables you to be very consistent, that you could like improve over time, and you could have like a level of maturity that, you know, finance trusts you that what you are doing is like, you know, and you every month they won't get surprised. So the way how we are thinking that, you know, usually we like, as a humans, we like order, that you look at this place, you know, you see everything is tidy, the chairs align, but that's not natural state. If you go to any forest, any jungle, any temperate forest or sequoias, you see that the nature is like, you know, very disorganized. That, you know, everything like, you know, the chaos is like nature. And that's, a lot of companies in cloud have that, you know, they have like many AWS accounts, many computers, some of them tagged properly, some of them not, some of them seems to be tagged properly, but those tags are, you know, outdated, they are not showing who they really are. And it's really, really hard to even like people start asking you very basic questions like how many computers you have, like, oh, I've seen like this many computers, what are the new computers that appear this month, what they are doing? And you find that you couldn't really answer those questions easily. So where we started is like, you know, that, you know, the first rule of chaos, that you could like describe everything, right? And this primary seems to be done in like, you know, either through Kubernetes labels or through AWS tags, that everything what you do got like some form of tag. And then, you know, but even if you do that, you know, AWS Build at Sumo got like 1 gigabyte of data. Luckily, there are some tools which right now get even commoditized, like CloudHerb or AWS budgets, that allow you to have like a nice aggregation and allocation. So, okay, like you have like 5 groups at companies, you know which resource goes where. And the goal of this harnessing chaos, that you could understand all of the big items. That yes, maybe there is some unallocated purpose, but you could understand everything what's going on, or like, you know, at least know what is the group to ask what really it is. And this, for a lot of people, seems to be like one-time exercise, but what we learned at Sumo, it took like a lot of iterations. So what we did, it was like every week I was going about all of this spend and figure out what happens. And it turns out that there is like, you know, a lot of low-hanging fruits. There was a lot of like run and forget resources. So somebody ran some computers, forget about it, you could delete it. Same with unattached volumes. Same with S3, you find like a big bucket, somebody make like some data machine learning experiment, and here's like, you know, hundreds of terabytes sitting idle that nobody wants to ever use again, right? So this is like very simple cleanup. The next types of cleanup is like underutilized resources, that you have like a lot of resources that may be like, some resources like S3 are naturally like consumption based. So if you put like gigabyte on S3, you pay for gigabyte. But a lot of other resources, like, you know, for example, like, you know, EBSs, you could have like a 1 terabyte volume and just use like a 5% of it. Maybe you don't need it, right? Same thing with computers. Maybe you're just using 5% of CPU. And likely on cloud, everything usually is like you could scale it down very easily, but it's very important to make sure that every resource is like utilized properly. That's the second category. And the third category, if you could do even like basic planning, for example, like you know that you will need this computer for a year. There's like some baseline layer. On AWS, there is like usually a lot of ways to prepay for resources, like reserved instances, that if you prepay for computer, you get like a 40% discount. So if you start to being organized, usually you could drop your spend easily by half or even like 3 times, just by knowing what you are doing and have like some people proactively looking at it. And the problem is that, you know, a lot of times you see some computer is doing something weird and you don't know what the heck has gone. Or it got some tags, you ask this team and they say like, oh, that's not our machine. We don't know what it is. So how do you root cause that? You know, and the best thing is just collect all of the deployment logs. Make sure that you log all of the tags, like, you know, instance ID, and you also collect CloudTrail. And then, you know, anytime you got these questions, you look at your logs, figure out like who did it, what has happened, and you are able to, like, you know, debug and fix all of those allocation rules. And there's two tricks we are applying. First is like search links. So anytime you get like this alert in like some other tool like Cloud Help, you could generate like a search link. Oh, please search me CloudTrail logs for this instance ID, and then quickly find like who's like which computer or which API found this. And it's also like another very trick is have to separate partition for those data, because it's very frequent that you are looking very far into the past, like even like a month ago, or like 2 months. So having those logs in separate partitions speeds up searches a lot. And also like in search links, you sometimes could encode, oh, this machine will start at this time. Just look for this like very narrow time range, so the search is like very quick. And once you understand what you're doing, it's good to know where are you going. And at Sumo we started with a very complicated mathematical model, how much we should spend. And we find so much time creating and maintaining those that what we really needed is like some simple goal, like a North Star. And here's like north, here's like south, here's like west, east, you know where to go. And surprisingly, even though the model was like super simple and a lot of people didn't believe it will work, it turned out that it was very efficient. Like if you think even of like a Column was thinking that got some idea how Earth works, that the Earth is much smaller. He wanted to discover like a new route to India, traveled. His North Star was wrong, clearly wrong. He didn't reach the India, but he discovered still something useful. So North Star doesn't sometimes need to be that accurate, same like as gross domestic product. Gross domestic product doesn't work on like a small scale. But in aggregate, it's inaccurate, but very useful tool to control what's your overall goal. So at Sumo Logic, what we found, if we just measure the ingest and just measure what's the total cost of this ingest, it's like a very good goal. Yes, there will be like some customers which are storing this data for a year, some just storing for a month, but at the end of the day, that's like good enough. Other companies like Facebook used like monthly active users, and clearly most companies could define what is the most useful like unit of value that justifies spending money. And the second lesson that was for all of those systems that we used to think that oh, history just move forwards, but after fixing those allocation rules, making changes, it turned out that sometimes we want to rewrite the data. And a lot of tooling, like most of the tooling I know, that completely breaks all of the assumptions, because we got this grouping, then we realized that there was like some mistake, that this cluster should go to different team that previously was small but right now is big, and we want to rewrite it. And even Sumo Logic, you send some logs, you don't want to remove them, you have like a lot of nice monitoring even on AWS CloudWatch, you couldn't send data to the past. So for us it was like a really problem and we need to solve it somehow. So the way what we solve it is just create like Jenkins job that's pulls all of the data from Cloud Help in our case and for search jobs in API, and crunch all of the historical data every day from like a whole year and the last month. So anytime we change any rule, we can do that even backwards in the past. And there's like a 3 tricks to do. One of them is like, we don't really rely on like parsing timestamp. We just create our own field. What was this spent for? The second, we just use something average. So if you rerun this job several times, you still get like average. Some people want to have like a last run of the job, but for us, average is fine. And you could slice and dice those data. It usually have like so many dimensions how you could understand. But what we really find, we always have dimension time. And in any graph, we could put 2 additional dimensions. So that's like example of our dashboard. So for example, like, we know how much we spent. We know like, which are like the key areas of Sumo. We could trend data over time and see where are you going. And that's like a very good to give you overall picture, like where are you going. And in this trick, you see like last 24 hours, but in fact, it could be any time range because you use this like time range field. So once you have this goal, it's like very useful like as optimization framework or which projects to follow. But one of the key lessons that we learned at Sumo, that as you get more efficient, it's more like a driving fast. You're driving really fast on like a dirt race. And some of these lessons you spend like several months, like a month to implement like a better compression algorithm, or like a year rewriting like, how we store full text format, and you get like a huge gains and you drive faster But then if you make like a simple mistake because you do like some load testing for Superboard and you get something, you could lose all of your efficiencies. So I compare it like, to like a race driving that you want to make laps faster, but if you make just one turn wrong, you could crash badly. So it's not only important to have those projects that will ship like, your improvements. At Sumo, the biggest improvements was like around data format because we are data intensive, but you could have also like architectural improvement, you could run something on Profiler, but also make sure that even after you spend all of this time profiling your application, not some other developer will add some code, like add few logins, and you get back where you were, right? So what we are doing is like we're always trending where we are going, and week after week, month after month, and we are looking after big changes, and we are constantly looking what improved and what not. And also what we are giving every team, like the prosperity team, creates like a dashboard with a lot of drill downs for every team. So at Sumo there is like, links. That I find that this is like probably one of the underutilized feature of Sumo Logic they love, that you could create dashboard at Sumo and add their directly links to other dashboard or Sumo, even like external links to like other products like Cloud Health or AWS Console. So we are creating links, so each team, if they got something, they could look at their own dashboard and investigate what's going on. And because teams are not usually looking at those dashboards, some of the teams are better than the others, we send them like a weekly emails. Oh, here was like your last month efficiency, here's like what was your best month, and here are you projecting for this month so far, and where you are trending. And if this gets bad, you could click on View Dashboard and immediately see more data, what actually happened, then go to root cause. So what I found is like some data, like the other tools, they are good at giving you absolute AWS spend. They are not so good at giving you this like unit economy, which for us is even more important, because like if you have more customers and we spend more money, good, business is good. But if we spend more money and don't have more customers, then like, oh, what the hell we are doing? Maybe we forgot to renew reserved instances and we need to buy them immediately, right? The other thing what we are sending, even more granular, that we parse all of our deployment logs. So anytime you make any configuration change in Sumo, any tweak property, we look at the cost data using API, we grab the logs, and we are trying to estimate what was your configuration change difference. And we are sending email for all of these increases, right? So if there was like an outage, and someone say, okay, like, or maybe we were about to get like an outage and someone make this decision, oh, we couldn't have like an outage, let's throw machines at the problem. Yes, the spend will increase. And then we get like an email, and then what often happens that somebody like a week later forget to turn it down. So we get like a lovely email of like, of who increased how much. And this email also got like a links to underlying logs. So you could see like what actually was happening at which time. And then you could like investigate, oh, if that was like really change, maybe we actually needed to make this configuration change because we want to have like a better experience, or it was just like some temporary change and we need to follow up whether do that. And we actually managed to know quite a lot of stuff even without asking people and just coming to the right people. Okay, like we've seen that you make this change 1 week, like, to increase machines, and right now like it's time to turn that down, right? So that, I believe, there is like a lot of projects that could save the cost, but even what's more important is having like this system that runs the company. So we have like actionable metrics. You are sending them proactively, so you stay on the track. And also like then, anytime you have like any idea how to save cost, for example, like, okay, you want to use this cluster on spot, like 30% spot. You could have like, discussion, measure it, how much improvement it will bring overall. You could later measure after you roll out whether you actually meet your goal or not. But this is like, very, very, very concrete thing. One of the purest thing, almost like a map, that you no longer have discussions like which project is better. No, you have like estimates how much you are going to save, how long it's going to take, and you almost have like a game that either you get these points or not. And that allows to improve things a lot. So the three things I believe you should take away from this from this presentation is that there's like a 3 levels of maturity, and first you need to understand. If you don't understand, having North Star on track, it's like, yeah, you will have something, but then if something bad happens, you didn't really know what to do about it. And Sumo Logic, there is a lot of very specialized cost-saving tools, but Sumo Logic is very good system to have this unit economy and also to root cause all of the issues. So ability to understand, I usually think about understanding as that you are able to find root cause quickly. You should get to a point that every time you get some cost increase, with a few minutes, you could have some story what really has happened. The North Star, what I think, is your financial model. What are you really selling? You don't really want to be directed to price, because price of your product may change over time. You may give sometimes discount, have some big customer or bigger customer or smaller customer at different price level. But you need to have some unit of value that's very good of justifying your spend or saying that you are spending too much. And then the third thing is the better alerts, not too noisy. We found that a lot of these tools were giving very noisy alerts that nobody followed. But having proactive alerts allows you to, even when I'm here, even if I'm not looking actively, I know for sure that if something will go wrong, I will know about it. I will know it before our VP of Finance or CFO will call me and tell me Jacek, what's going on? No, I will go to them and say, okay, we have this extra spend because we are trying to land this big deal and we need to do load testing. And the finance people love that. Finance people, if you want to make finance people love you, just tell them before the fact, not after the fact. That's so that's pretty much it. Thank you. I'm happy to take any of your questions.